Okay, I'm gonna teach you in this video how you can find the perfect spot to live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I know for a lot of you folks moving to Cincy, it can be difficult to navigate the area if you're new here. Some of you folks are already living here and you still don't know how to navigate the area, but it's all good. That's why I'm here. We're gonna cover the entire Cincy area. We're gonna talk about all the areas and neighborhoods, who chooses to live in these areas, which areas to avoid, all of it. I will teach you everything you need to know about living in Cincinnati, Ohio. This is the only channel you need when it comes to information on living in and moving to Cincinnati, Ohio. This is the only video you need when it comes to navigating the Cincinnati, Ohio area, all right? Let's start with the basics. First off, Cincinnati is not an excessively big city. The inner city only covers about 80 square miles, so it's not a massive city like New York or Houston. So once you get used to how to move around in a city like this, you'll see it's not a terribly bad place to learn how to get around. You can essentially divide the city up into 4 areas. You got the west side, you got the east side. This area right here can be referred to as the north side. And then I like to refer to this area here as the central or main districts of Cincinnati. All right, the main districts are going to comprise that downtown and uptown areas, central business districts, and all the big colleges and sports coliseum areas. All the areas that get a ton of visitors and a ton of traffic and can get pretty congested at times. That's why I refer to these areas as central or main areas of Cincinnati, which is a good place to start. Let's start there in the central part of Cincinnati. Here is your downtown area, closest to the Ohio riverbank right there. Downtown is also really close to over the Rhine, also called OTR. It's really close to the central business district, also the West End. So downtown, OTR, central business districts are some of the most walkable areas in Cincinnati. You're gonna get a lot of pedestrian friendly streets down here. You got public buses that run pretty heavily down here. There's also the trolley you can jump on, which circles the downtown and OTR areas. Unfortunately, this is the only place you can access a trolley, so it's pretty limited. If you notice these heavy blue lines right here, these lines represent interstates or expressways. And this downtown area and the vicinity surrounding it is very accessible to interstates, which is a plus. If you are anywhere in Cincinnati, the main interstates are going to be I-75, also I-74, which run all through the main districts down here. Also 275 gives you access to Cincinnati as well. A lot of people going to and from Cincinnati will use that 275 to get here and back and forth between Kentucky. And also Interstate 471 is common as well, especially coming to and from Northern Kentucky. But 74, 75 are the most common interstates here in Cincinnati. Generally, people that choose to live in these areas down here by the main districts are going to be your young professionals. They like to be really close to work. It's a lot of jobs down here in these areas. A lot of them also like being close to the river, really close to all the city action. You get a lot of venues down here, all your sports arenas and stadiums. It typically isn't ideal for family life. People down here live a little bit more faster and it's much more business oriented. And it's a big place for tourist attractions. You get a lot of visitors in these areas. Here's a look at Smale Park along the Ohio River right here. Really fun for all ages. It's a good family stop. I love the big swings on a nice spring day. You can get a really good view of the river right there. Walk across the street from Smale Park, you'll run into something we call the Banks, which is a really fun hangout spot with a lot of bars. It's a good pre-game spot for a lot of people who like to come up here before the Reds games. You got the Red Stadium right there, right off the Banks. They'll come up there before those games and they'll come up here before the Bengals games too. So good pre-game spot, good weekend hangout spot, Friday, Saturday, stuff like that. Actually, if you're in OTR, on Vine Street, which is one of the longest streets in the city, Vine Street stretches through a pretty big chunk of the city. You can take Vine through most of the downtown area, which essentially touches all of the side streets Here's what it looks like from Elm Street. There's a look at Washington Park right there, another popular park. By the way, guys, if you are considering a move to Cincinnati and you need help in the buying process, feel free to reach out to me. I'm helping people buy and sell real estate here in Cincy and the Cincy suburbs all the time. I'm sure I can help you too. Shoot me a text, give me a call, send me an email, whatever works best for you, I got your back. Like I said, if you're on Vine, it runs through a big part of the city. Here is Vine, right here intersecting with Central Parkway. If you go further up on Central Parkway, you'll run into the Hard Rock Casino. But Vine Street, downtown, Friday nights, Saturday nights, really fun place to be. Lots of restaurants, lots of bars, pretty good nightlife. The Eagle is a good spot, pretty popular chicken in there. Also Bakersfield right there. Don't forget to check out some of the street art while you're in Cincy as well. We have some of the best street murals in the country, and a lot of them, most of them actually were done by local artists. You can actually take Vine all the way through OTR up into the Uptown area, also known as Clifton. This is where you will find the University of Cincinnati. This is where you'll find the Cincinnati Zoo. So there's a heavy college crowd up here. Be aware of that. This is Calhoun Street right here. It runs along the backside of the university. There's some good little stops up here. Gets pretty packed up here on the weekends. Be prepared for that if you're driving. They will tag your car. They will tow your car. Be careful not to park somewhere that you shouldn't be. They're pretty aggressive on parking in Clifton. Ton of restaurants up here, guys. This is one of the most popular streets in the entire Uptown area. The other well-known streets in Uptown are going to be East McMillan, also Short Vine, which has a ton of stuff to do up there, and also on Ludlow Avenue. This is generally where you're going to find all of the action in Clifton. Now, if you go up about a half a mile over, you're going to get closer to Avondale, which is where you'll find a lot of your major hospitals in Cincinnati. Cincinnati Children's, UC Medical Center, Christ, Shriners. A lot of this runs along Burnett Avenue. This is like the hub for medical treatment in Cincinnati. Lots of medical industry workers here, medical students. A lot of them like to stay in either that Clifton area or somewhere close to the Avondale area. Even though Avondale is not a super desirable area, it is coming along. They are doing a lot to make the area appealing to the heavy hospital presence that they have over here. And Avondale is also very close to Cincinnati Zoo, like I said. Another really tourist-friendly stop in Cincy. All right, so downtown, riverfront, OTR, Clifton, Avondale. These are some of the major places to that central portion of Cincinnati. When you get past the downtown area and OTR area into Clifton and Avondale area, you start to see some of the more residential and more suburban places to live, like Walnut Hills, Evanston, St. Bernard, Bond Hill. Here is Spring Grove Cemetery right here, one of the largest cemeteries in the country. If we slide over to the north side, which is an actual neighborhood in Cincinnati, it's called North Side. That's a really good place for us to transition into talking about the northern parts of Cincinnati. Now, North Side is adjacent to Clifton, not far at all from the Uptown area. It is one of the most up and coming neighborhoods in Cincinnati. You do get a lot of younger professionals that are attracted to North Side. Hamilton Avenue is a really common road which runs straight through North Side. It's where you'll find most of the action in North Side. This is Melt Revival. This is a really popular spot in North Side with a lot of vegan options. Oh, hey buddy, how are you? Let's give this guy a face. No one deserves to not have a face. Everyone deserves personality. Also, North Side, you got Tickle Pickle right here. Really nice hamburger spot. North Side has some of the oldest homes in the city. It's a very strong residential area, very strong rental market as well if you're a renter. If you go further up Hamilton Avenue, you will run right into College Hill, eventually into North College Hill. College Hill itself is a neighborhood of Cincinnati. North College Hill is not. You'll find that to be common while you're in Cincinnati. You'll notice you'll come across a lot of these areas that are in Cincinnati, but they aren't Cincinnati cities. It's weird. North College Hill has one of the strongest housing markets in Cincinnati. It's a tough place to buy because of the demand. Good range of homes over here, smaller starter homes for the first-time buyer, and also a lot of bigger, really historical homes as well. If you keep going north, you will start seeing some of these Cincy suburbs that get out of the city limits, like White Oak, also Groesbeck, Finneytown, Mount Healthy, Coleraine Township, Forest Park, Springdale. It's getting really suburban when you get that far out north. So keep that in mind when you're deciding which direction to go if you're moving here. It doesn't take too long to get out of the city and into a suburban area. But that's a pretty good summary of the north side of Cincy. I do want to move on to the west side because it encompasses such a massive part of Cincinnati. The neighborhood of Westwood itself is actually the most populated neighborhood in Cincinnati, with roughly 40,000 people living there. Now, the west side does have some of the roughest areas in the city. I know that there's some big efforts present to try to transform the west side, but a lot of it still really needs a lot of work, such as South Fairmount right here, still a pretty rough area. East Price Hill, still a pretty rough area. One thing I do want to mention, and you need to know this about the west side of Cincinnati. Check this out right here. Notice how you have those heavy interstate lines I mentioned earlier, especially on this side of Cincinnati. You got them up here in the main areas, pretty much everywhere running through most of Cincinnati. But look what happens when you get over here to the west side. Nothing running through here. They are not as prevalent on the west side. You don't have major interstates that really run through the west side, making it convenient for people, which honestly really sucks. It's one of the biggest negatives about living on the west side to me, not having those convenient expressways you can jump on and off of really quick. So if you're coming from the city into the west side, the most common route is probably going to be using Queen City Avenue, which can be a big pain. You really want to drive this road with caution. It's a really busy road. People come down here flying down Queen City, so be really careful if you have to use Queen City. Most people don't drive the speed limit, but to my point, without an expressway, you literally have to take Queen City all the way up just to get into the heart of Westwood and most places on that west side. Queen City will actually take you all the way up to Glenway Avenue. So that's one of the main ways into the west side of Cincinnati. Another route, this is if you're coming from maybe that Clifton or Camp Washington area or that Spring Grove area. You can take Westwood Northern Boulevard, another really long and dangerous road with sometimes reckless drivers on it, all the way up into the heart of the west side. Or you can use Harrison Avenue, which runs straight through the west side as well. So those essentially are the main options if you're talking about primary routes in and out of the west side. The only exit that really connects to the west side is I-74, I guess. If you're coming from 75 South, you can jump on 74 here and get off on the Montana exit, which will basically put you in East Westwood. And from there, I guess you can get to where you need to go on the west side. But that is basically the only interstate route into Westwood. Now, at the same time, there are a lot of positives to being on the west side. You got some really good suburbs over on the west, like Delhi Township. Here is Mount St. Joseph University right here, just outside of Delhi. You also have Cheviot right here, Covedale, Bridgetown up here. Bridgetown sometimes referred to as Green Township. You also got Oak Hills on the west, one of the best school districts in Cincy. For you foodie people who like to eat and drink, I'd recommend hitting up somewhere like Harrison Avenue. This is kind of where Westwood and Cheviot kind of meet and they intersect with each other. You got the Ivory House, which is a really nice upscale steakhouse. Also Westside Brewery. You got Heinke Brewery, Legend Sports Bar. All of this is running along Harrison Avenue, one of the main roads in Cincinnati. So west side, probably the biggest geographical area in Cincinnati. Keep in mind, if you are used to interstate travel, it may be a little inconvenient for you, but nonetheless, lots of pros to the west side, still a pretty high demand area with some good suburbs. Looking at the east, you got some pretty good interstates that run through on multiple sides here. We have some of the most popular Cincinnati neighborhoods on the east side like Oakley, Hyde Park, Mount Lookout, pretty bustling and busy neighborhoods, and they all essentially interconnect with each other. So they're all close in proximity. You're gonna have some of the most expensive home prices and rents in inner city Cincinnati in these areas. Here is Hyde Park Square in the Hyde Park district. A lot of stuff to get into around here. They have approved to get this Hyde Park Square area a pretty big upgrade in the coming years. So this whole area will be seeing a big transformation soon. This is the area near Erie Avenue where Erie Avenue intersects with Edwards Road. All this area will be getting an upgrade. I think some luxury apartments are included as a part of that project. If you are in the Oakley area, you have a bunch of stuff to get into here as well, especially around here, around Vandercar Way, around Madison Road, Ridge Road, these areas, like a real hot spot. You got all your gyms over here. You got Oakley Cinema over here. Here is Mad Tree right here off Madison Road. And there's just a bunch of stuff going on all throughout that Oakley area. It's a great place for younger professionals, but you also have a lot of middle-aged, more established families here as well. Higher household income is needed for sure if you want to be able to afford to live in Oakley, Hyde Park, or Mount Lookout. Here's a look at Mount Lookout Square right here, where Delta Avenue and Linwood Avenue meet. Really jumping place to be, especially on the weekends. There's a sports event happening, especially Bengals. People go crazy for Bengals over here. Mount Lookout Tavern is like the hot spot for Bengals games. Very walkable area. Just be careful with the roundabout that circles the square. Sometimes people don't know how to navigate these roundabouts, or a rotary, whatever you want to call it. You know, also on the eastern part of Cincinnati, you have the neighborhood of Madisonville, which is a really fast growing and developing Cincinnati neighborhood. You're also really close to the suburb of Fairfax right here. Madison Road runs straight through Madisonville into Plainfield Road. And then you'll start seeing much more upscale, expensive suburbs like Indian Hill. Also, you have the area of Madeira, another upscale suburb. The Kenwood Mall is probably the most popular mall and the only real traditional mall still left in Cincinnati. Really close to these east side neighborhoods off of Kenwood Road, you also have the only Trader Joe's in the city located right there. I know that grocery supply is probably important to a lot of you folks because you might have a higher standard. We only have 2 Whole Food markets in the city. One of them is here in the eastern part of Cincinnati in Rookwood Commons in the city of Norwood. So, you know, if you can't survive without really high quality grocery chains like these farmers markets and places like this, you may want to just consider what you'll be able to adjust to. Outside of that, when you really start going east, you're going to get into super suburban areas like Anderson Township, Amelia, Terrace Park, Milford, Newtown, which honestly, some of these suburbs outside of the city, whether it be east, west, or north, have so much going on for them that I could probably make an individual map tour for each one of them. But I hope this video helps you understand a little bit more about what the inner workings of the general Cincinnati area are like. Like I said, you're more than welcome to reach out to me if you are moving to Cincy or any of the Cincinnati suburbs and you need help in that buying or selling process. I would love to have a chat with you. If you want to watch some more cool videos on what it's actually like living in Cincinnati, Ohio, check out these videos right here. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, when it comes to houses in Cincinnati, you can always call Vic.